Russell Brand, who is a well-known English comedian and actor who was once upon a time married to singer Katy Perry, is facing huge and serious allegations. Well, last Thursday and Friday, a 90-minute investigation on Channel 4 was released, and it went into detail discussing all the essay allegations people had against Brand. This program was a collaboration between Dispatches and the Sunday Times, and the newspaper did go public first, which allowed people to have insight on the allegations even before the documentary was aired. This documentary dived deep into not only the present, but also looked at the abuse history he has had with women he interacted with one woman alleging Brand forced himself on her, and even another woman coming out to say he was essaying her towards the end of their relationship that started when she was 16 and he was 31, and even alleged that Brand would refer to her as the child and encouraged her to lie to her parents. Even a third woman claims he had essayed her as well as physically hurt her. Russell Brand himself made a video where he discussed quote-unquote some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. He even continued by saying, "The relationships I had were absolutely always consensual," and he also talked about his beliefs, speculating that these claims are, in his words, coordinated media attacks. With another agenda at play, following these accusations, Russell was actually dropped by his talent agency as well as a charity he was affiliated with, and this statement he released actually had a lot of people siding with the comedian. In fact, Elon Musk, yes, the billionaire and entrepreneur himself, even left a comment under Brand's video defending him by writing, "Of course they don't like competition." Musk even replied to someone else's tweet by stating, "No more canceling, enough is enough." I understand why Elon believes cancel culture is extremely toxic, but these allegations go beyond just cancel culture. It isn't some internet drama, but real accusations of harm. Well, Elon isn't the only one to defend Brand, as Andrew Tate, yes, the misogynist influencer who's actually currently awaiting trial due to charges of trafficking and more, wrote, "Welcome to the club," as well as tell everybody the truth about what's happening to Russell Brand. "I know things I shouldn't know." I'm not sure why Tate is coming to the rescue when he has his own trial and issues to worry about, and his whole rise to fame was because of his hurtful and toxic views on women, so I'm not sure if he's the best to defend. However, the documentary has plenty of information as it discusses the narrative and places these women's claims on a wider context, especially within the industry and culture as a whole. It continues to dive deeper into recognizing the collective issues, especially because this seems to be in reoccurring allegations surrounding many stars of Hollywood. Although Russell claims these women and their stories are untrue, there has been a history of his creepy behavior. During an interview with Conan O'Brien, Brand goes into detail describing his preference when it comes to a certain activity that is way too graphic to be discussed here. In fact, there has also been an audio recording of Brand where you can hear him degrading his women employee. In fact, she was his assistant, and Brand discussed how he was able to get his assistant to visit another star unclothed. It is quite disturbing to talk about your own employee in that way. In fact, no one should be talking about anyone in the same manner as Brand, especially due to the power imbalance as Brand is her boss. An investigation has actually been ongoing due to 4 anonymous women coming forward with their stories that span from 2006 to 2013, as he has been accused of numerous essay allegations. Russell Brand's current wife, Laura Gallagher, who he reportedly dated before marrying Katy Perry, well, the two ended up tying the knot in 2016 and welcomed 3 children to the world together. Although Laura hasn't directly commented on the situation, it is clear she is aware of it, as she did delete her Instagram. This situation is very serious, and I hope all the survivors in this case are able to seek peace, as it takes a lot of courage to talk about their experiences, especially when it includes someone that is very well known. Today we are going to be talking about the top 10 celebrities that tried warning us about Russell Brand. At number 10 we have Dannii Minogue. The Australian singer and TV personality has actually been warning the public about Russell's behavior for years now. Dannii was first booked to be on Russell's MTV show, but unfortunately was left with nothing but bad things to say about him afterwards. In a 2006 interview, she said, "He is completely crazy and a bit of a vile predator. I certainly don't think he has cured his sex addiction, that's for sure. He wouldn't take no for an answer." Dannii even further added, "Throughout the whole interview, he kept making shocking remarks that I can't even repeat. Just uttering the words would make me blush." This resurfaced interview with Dannii was actually from nearly 17 years ago, which is insane because the recent allegations against Brand was just made last week, following the release of his documentary. Dannii also talked about how Russell kept bringing up her body, specifically about her quote-unquote fabulous breasts, which made her very uncomfortable. Especially when you're a guest on a show, you expect the host to be comforting, as it allows you to be authentic to your true self. It is unfortunate Dannii was left feeling uncomfortable, and who can blame her? And for our number 9 spot, we have no one else but Russell Brand's famous ex, Katy Perry. The two tied the knot back in 2010, but Russell filed for divorce only 14 months later. Russell did not only text Katy saying he wanted to get a divorce, but it was all captured on camera. In the 2012 documentary titled Katy Perry Part of Me, there is a moment showcasing Katy receiving a text from Brand himself. As she reads it, she quickly realizes he was asking for a divorce, and this was right before she was about to perform on stage. We are able to see Katy openly vulnerable as she allows her emotions out before quickly wiping them away and putting on a smile for her audience. I could not imagine if I was in Katy's shoes and my husband asked for a divorce, not only through text, but literally moments right before she's supposed to be on stage performing. In a 2010 interview Katy did with Vogue, she talked a little bit about her relationship with Brand by saying, "He's a very smart man, a magical man, and I was in love with him when I married him." Katy then further said, "At first when I met him, he wanted an equal, and I think a lot of times strong men do want an equal, but then they get that equal and they're like, I can't handle the equalness. He didn't like the atmosphere of me being the boss on tour, so that was really hurtful, and it was very controlling, which was upsetting." She then added, "Let's just say I haven't heard from him since he texted me saying he was divorcing me." Katy has not yet commented on the recent allegations surrounding her ex-husband, but in 2020, she did talk about the relationship she had with him, calling it interesting and stimulating, and followed that by saying it was just like a tornado. It was everything happening at once. I'm glad that chapter of their life closed, as it doesn't seem like it was healthy for the two of them. For number 8, we have Andrew Sachs, more specifically his granddaughter Georgina Bailey. In fact, Georgina is claiming Russell made millions of pounds out of her when she was just a young woman. Back in 2008, BBC had a prank broadcast that had Russell Brand and his co-host Jonathan Ross call and leave a vulgar message on Andrew's voicemail detailing how Brand had done some inappropriate stuff with his granddaughter, Georgina. He even continued by further bragging about it. Although this was just a prank and even Georgina stated it was a consensual prank, it doesn't change the fact Georgina felt like she was taken advantage of in the situation. She stated, "I was a young girl completely dazzled by celebrity, and I would do anything, and I did." She further goes on to say, "I thought I was just a 20-year-old girl at a party, but looking back on it, years later, I was already in the throes of addiction myself. I was really lost back then." After this whole situation happened, Russell made millions of dollars doing his stand-up routine, and unfortunately, Georgina was the butt of his joke. She opened up about how she turned to drinking and other substances in order to cope with her dark time. Poor Andrew was obviously shocked and hurt by this whole situation, which actually caused him to not talk to his own granddaughter for 8 years, which is heartbreaking. In fact, Georgina does acknowledge Russell's apology towards her, and she says it was sincere. However, it definitely didn't justify his actions, and him knowing what happened to her was seen by the public, and she believes it was a motive for him to apologize. And for number 7, we have Rod Stewart. This legendary singer who has sold over 120 million records worldwide has had an encounter with Russell Brand that is resurfacing during the G2 Man of the Year Awards in 2006, where Brand made inappropriate comments towards Stewart's daughter. Russell, what is with you and granddaughters and daughters? While Brand was accepting the most stylish award, he thought it was a good idea to say something about Stewart's daughter while Stewart himself was sitting in the audience during the ceremony. Russell got on stage and said, "Here's to Rod Stewart, who had a go at me earlier this year for too much womanizing, but then again I did have a go at his daughter." And you could imagine this did not sit well with Stewart. This doesn't end here, as Stewart was on stage accepting his Outstanding Achiever Award. He used this time to get back at Brand, and Stewart stated, "You went with my daughter, did you?" before telling him to stand up. Stewart followed that by saying, "Took her out for one evening, did you behave yourself?" And Brand then quickly backtracked what he said earlier, telling Stewart, "I never touched that girl." Which then Stewart said, "You mustn't come up here and boast, I speak here as a father." Good for Rod for clearing up this whole situation, because as much as men boast about these encounters, women face the opposite problem, as they are shamed for this. Rod was able to set the record straight before any negative words began to attach themselves to his beloved daughter. In our 6th spot, we have the company Hugo Boss. During the 2013 GQ Men of the Year Awards once again, Brand was thrown out of an after party after making harmful remarks targeted towards a religion. Brand was actually linking the harmful remarks to Hugo Boss, who was the sponsor of this event. Although I can't read his exact quote, Brand basically said Hugo Boss made and designed uniforms for those who were held captive during a certain World War II event. And obviously this did not go well, as he was kicked kicked out of the event. Although there was some truth in the situation, it is nowhere near to what Brand tried making it appear like. In fact, a 2011 historical study discusses what really happened, and it definitely is not how Brand explained. I doubt he's gonna be getting any sponsorships from Hugo Boss themselves for quite some time. In our 5th spot, we have Sarah Palin. It seems like Russell Brand has had a repeated history on how he chooses to describe women. Back in 2014, Brand was promoting his brand at the Television Critics Association. In fact, he thought it was a good idea to make some comments about Sarah, who was the former Alaskan governor. He told the reporters if Sarah appeared on his show, he would skip over politics and jump straight into her, well, physical appeal. Although I can't say his exact quote, he basically said the only reason why people tolerate Sarah is because of what they want to do with her. It is sad how Russell continues to objectify and view women, and this definitely does not lead to any good examples for his younger audience. This is quite disturbing, especially due to the recent allegations against him, and it seems like he has a pattern when describing women a certain way, but I would love to hear what you think. In our 4th spot, we have Donald Trump. Yes, this former television host and US president has expressed his opinions on Russell Brand over the past few years, and obviously expressed those feelings on nowhere else but Twitter. Trump tweeted at Katy Perry back in 2014 and wrote, "Katy, what the hell were you thinking when you married loser Russell Brand? There is a guy who has got nothing going, a waste." Trump did tweet this before he ran for presidency, but it is pretty funny what he had to say. Although he didn't specify a specific reason why he wasn't a fan of Brand, it was clear he did not like him very much. In our 3rd spot, we have Justin Bieber. This Canadian singer rose to fame when he was just 13 years old, which made him an easy target for Russell Brand and his comedy shows. He pokes fun at Bieber by saying he should be trying certain illegal substances, and obviously some fans were angry because this did happen back in 2010 when Justin was around 16 years old, whereas Brand would have been 35. For him to make this joke, it didn't sit well with a lot of people, which caused Brand to further comment on the situation by stating it was clearly a joke question that required a joke answer. However, this comedian seemed to be defending Justin back in 2014 when a video of Justin saying racist slurs went viral. Very interesting. In our 2nd spot, we have Jeremy Clarkson. This Top Gear star has had a few public disputes with Brand. Well, Russell actually made a parody of Top Gear and replaces Jeremy with no one else but himself. Brand discusses a vehicle in front of him while still mimicking Clarkson and says it's eco-friendly, runs on biodegradable fuel, and social unity just like me. He continued to mock Clarkson by singing the children's song Eeny Meeny Miny Mo, but had a few twists on the lyrics. Although it was supposed to be a joke and was made for comedy, it definitely didn't give Jeremy a very good look, as the whole video was just Brand making fun of him. And in our number 1 spot, we have Piers Morgan. This British television personality and journalist has actually had multiple disputes with Russell Brand on Twitter over the years. Morgan has criticized Brand for his political views and opinions multiple times and has actually reacted to the recent allegations. Morgan wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter, stating, "The allegations against Russell Brand are horrifying, and the investigative reporting behind them exemplary. But he's denied them, and language being used on here, his accusers being labeled as victims or as survivors, etc., and fears guilt plus criminality. He's entitled to due process. However, this has led to mixed reactions from the public, with some agreeing with Morgan and others disagreeing." We are going to be counting down our top 10 celebrities speaking out against Russell Brand. For number 10, we have the comedian London Hughes. London took it to X, formerly known as Twitter, to share how she always knew to keep a distance from Brand, who she claims was a self-confessed addict when it came to women and seeking intimacy. She stated, "I was newly signed with Russell's agent at the height of his career. I was a huge fan of the man, so excited to meet him. But my first day at the agency, I was told unprovoked that I shouldn't sleep with him under any circumstances, as he likes to pursue women, have intercourse with them." She continued by saying, "But as soon as he had intercourse with them, they'd make him feel sick and he didn't want to be around them anymore, so he would have them fired or dropped from the agency. It had happened several times in the past. I was 22 at the time, did what I was told, and completely avoided him. This is not some cheeky misunderstood man. I am not shocked by the documentary at all. I believe everything those brave women said." London's statements proved there was a power imbalance when it came to other women and Brand. These girls were probably scared they would lose their job if they came forward, or worried no one would believe them. At number 9, we have the crew at Big Brother. Russell was actually representing Big Brother's Big Mouth on Channel 4, ironically, from 2004 to 2006. Well, now the crew members who worked alongside Brand have come forward to discuss his Ross's behavior on set. These employees were working for the production firm Endemol while this was occurring. Well, now these ex-employees have come forward to actually call Russell Brand a pimp. Brand would allegedly ask the showrunners to go to the audience members he found attractive and ask for their information in order to meet up with them afterwards. There is not only a power imbalance when it comes to Russell and the staff, but also the audience, which makes this whole situation even trickier. The ex-staff member stated, "We all knew he was a predator. There is no denying that he was involved in a lot of complicated sexual situations." Another staff member described the workplace environment as a free-for-all due to everyone being culpable, as they all knew how he was like. Another stated, "I distinctly remember getting phone calls from women in tears the next day saying they'd met up with Russell. It was like we were taking lambs into slaughter. We were basically acting like pimps to Russell Brand's needs." Another showrunner, who was 24 at the time, claimed Russell flashed her in the dressing room. This whole situation, if true, is devastating, as I'm sure the staff members felt compliant as he was such a well-known public figure and their jobs were probably at risk. In our 8th spot, we have Daniel Sloss. This comedian, actor, and writer was apparently one of the first to publicly speak out against him. Hundreds of sources who have worked with Brand, including other comedians and celebrities, were asked to speak up about Brand for the documentary, but Sloss was the only one who was willing to speak on record. He revealed how several women comedians were in a WhatsApp group chat together where they would warn each other about Brand. Sloss stated, "I know for many years women have been warning each other about Russell." He even further added, "There were many stories. It wasn't just coming from one person or one group of people, it was different incidents over different years and of varying degrees of severity. He was a big name, big household name. If you were a comedian and got a gig with him, you'd be gigging with a celebrity. I'm stood in bars with agents, promoters, channel commissioners, and I'm hearing these allegations and rumors with Russell in the same room. And later on, he would be on a movie or a television show, he would be hosting something. He was still being employed." If this is all true, it seems like those in the industry itself seem to have more insight on Brand while he was able to keep his image squeaky clean for the public. We have the director of the Hijack series, Jim Field Smith. Although he hasn't directly identified who he's talking about, many believe it is about Brand himself because he tweeted a series of tweets after the allegations. He refers to this mystery A-list celebrity as Actor X, and he claims this actor has powerful people working alongside him in order to protect their career. Smith actually said he turned down working with this person because of the claims surrounding their behavior. He states, "I was once dissuaded from hiring Actor X because other actors I was meeting for other roles had heard X might be attached to the project and had said unequivocally they would not work on the project in those circumstances." He further added, "There were no criminal allegations against X, but rather a pattern of behavior that several people had either noticed or been personally subjected to." When I asked these people why this wasn't common knowledge, they said that speaking up didn't seem like it would make a difference. He continued to say, "This was really troubling. After not much deliberation, the casting director and I decided not only to cease negotiations with X, but also, more importantly, to be very open and honest about why we were doing so." If Smith is referring to Brand, it means they have addressed these claims to him, which is troubling because it seems like he has a repeated pattern as many feared him behind the scenes. At number 6, we have the anonymous former model. This ex-model, although anonymous, has shared her alleged experience she had with Brand as she spoke with The Sun. She met him back in a bar in 2005 located in Primrose Hill, and she claims to have told him to leave her alone, but he proceeded to follow her onto the streets as she says he grew increasingly creepy. While walking through the streets of London, Brand was following her while she was walking alone. She shared how it felt like a lifetime. Russell then apparently shouted at her and stated, "Let's just right here." She then further added, "I felt like he was hunting me down. It wasn't flirty or fun. The word is absolutely spot on. He was dead set on his goal. His intention was to have sex with someone. Anyone." That is extremely frightening, and honestly, some of the words she used to describe Brand has also been used by multiple women. For our number 5 spot, we have Dannii Minogue. This Australian singer and TV personality had an interview back in 2006 before any of these current SA allegations surfaced. She first met Brand when she was set to appear on his show to promote the release of her album. However, she was left with an awful experience. When interviewing with The Mirror, she states, "He is completely crazy and a bit of a vile predator. I certainly don't think he has cured his addiction, that's for sure. He wouldn't take no for an answer. The way Danny described Brand sounds a lot like how other women described him, with words like predator being a reoccurring way to describe him. A lot of people are resurfacing this interview, especially because of the recent claims and because Danny said all of this about him before anything about Brand was made public. And for number 4, we have Sean Locke. This comedian and actor had a resurfaced video that has recently been shared after the essay allegations. Back in 2013, Locke stated, "Probably the reason I hate him so much is because I'm a dad, and I've got this fear that my daughter will bring someone like that home." This is a huge red flag when it comes to Brand's behavior, as it seems many people have the same stigma and opinions on him, and especially when it comes to Brand's treatment towards women. Locke actually then proceeds to do an imitation of Brand and says, "Such a pleasure to be your charming abode," while waving his arm in the air. It's clear Locke had his opinions about Brand before sadly passing away in 2021. In our third spot, we have Adam Rowe. This stand-up comedian wrote a thread on X describing his knowledge and experiences with Brand. He did end up taking down this tweet, however, the screenshots are posted all over Reddit. He stated Russell Brand's allegations far outdate his new anti-mainstream media shtick. We've all known for years but have been threatened with legal action, and he has a super injunction. Dispatches must have enough to surpass it. When I say we've, I mean the comedy industry. It is clear from our list so far, many comedians themselves are speaking out against Brand, as I'm sure many of them worked pretty close alongside him, as they are in the same industry. Adam also believes Brand is attempting to pull off the victim card, as he wants people to believe the mainstream media has gone after him. In fact, he described it as quote-unquote reverse engineered, as he believes he's known for a long time and has been preparing for this moment and spent his recent years putting up an anti-mainstream media persona. At number 2, we have comedian Sam Avery. He actually took it to X, formerly known as Twitter, to share his opinions on the ongoing essay allegations against Brand. He wrote, "People talking about Russell Brand like he's the only person to ever question the establishment, big pharma, etc. Nah mate, he's just the one with good cheekbones who uses long words that make you feel intelligent. The dude's less authentic than AstroTurf." Sam made it pretty clear where he stands with Brand, as he has now publicly said in the statement about why he doesn't like Brand and suggests why people are still supporting him amid the essay allegations. In our first spot, we have Katy Perry. Of course she would be on this list, as she was once married to Brand back in 2010, but Brand actually filed for divorce 14 months later through a text message. It actually gets worse, as he sent this text message right before Katy was set to perform, and this moment was captured on camera. You're able to view this footage through the documentary called Katy Perry Part of Me, as we see Katy getting emotional as she gets the news but quickly has to put on a smile as she hits the stage. Well, this singer had an interview with Vogue back in 2013 about her relationship with Brand and said, "He's a very smart man, a magical man, and I was in love with him when I married him. At first when I met him, he wanted an equal, and I think a lot of times strong men do want an equal, but then they get that equal and they're like, I can't handle the equalness. He didn't like the atmosphere of me being the boss on tour, so that was really hurtful, and it was very controlling, which was upsetting." She then added, "Let's just say I haven't heard from him since he texted me saying he was divorcing me." Katy has also discussed how she felt about the divorce and stated, "I felt a lot of responsibility for it ending, but then I found out the real truth, which I can't necessarily disclose because I keep it locked in my safe for a rainy day." It's clear the two weren't right for each other, as it seems Katy has gone through an emotional roller coaster while in a relationship with Brand and even after. Although she hasn't commented on the current situation, it's clear the relationship dynamic these two had was harmful and damaging towards Katy. Top 10 times Russell Brand should have been cancelled. For number 10, we have Prank Call Gone Wrong. Back in 2008, BBC had a segment that featured Russell himself as the host, and on this specific episode, Jonathan Ross was his special guest. Well, the two had the brilliant idea to prank call actor Andrew Sachs, who is well known for his role in Fawlty Towers. The prank was not only targeting Andrew himself, but more specifically his granddaughter. Georgina Bailey, who is Sachs' granddaughter, has actually spoken up against this prank, as she claims Brand made millions of pounds off of her when she was just a young woman. And if you're wondering what happened, well, Brand called Andrew and described in graphic detail what inappropriate activities he had done with his granddaughter Georgina. He even continued to brag about about it, which obviously angered him. Although Georgina was aware and consented to the prank during the time, she was able to reflect on the situation years later as she matured. She stated, "I was a young girl, completely dazzled by celebrity, and I would do anything, and I did." She further goes on to say, "I thought I was just a 20-year-old girl at a party, but looking back on it years later, I was already in the throes of addiction myself. I was really lost back then." And Georgina was also made to be the butt of Russell's jokes when he performed them, and she claims he's made millions off of her. This also caused her grandpa to not talk to her for 8 years because of this whole prank. Georgina has since accepted Brand's apology, but does believe he only apologized because of the public's attention towards the situation, although she does think he was genuinely sorry. In our number 9 spot, we have filing for divorce through text. We all have heard about people breaking up over a phone call, but have you ever heard of someone filing for divorce through text message? Well, Russell Brand did exactly that when he decided to separate from his partner Katy Perry. The two actually got engaged a year after they began seeing each other, and they were married in India with close family and friends by their side in order to celebrate their day. However, after 14 short months, Brand decided he no longer wanted to spend his life married to Katy and thought the best way to tell her this was through a text message. Not only was it through text message, but he actually sent it moments before Katy was set to perform on stage. This was all captured and shown in the documentary titled Katy Perry, Part of Me, and it's crazy to see how Katy went from being emotional to quickly having to act like nothing happened as she proceeds to put a smile on her face for her show. I'm sure Katy deserved more respect than a text message, and she also proceeded to talk about the relationship the two once had, but called it a tornado as everything happened all at once. For number 8, we have disrespecting Sarah Palin. Back in 2014, Russell was promoting his own brand during the Television Critics Association, and while he was there, he thought it was a perfect opportunity to talk about the former governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin. But he actually didn't go into her politics and beliefs, but rather commented on her physical appearance. His exact quote is way too graphic to be shared on here, but Brand basically said the only reason why people are able to tolerate Sarah is because of what they want to physically do with her. It seems like he has a past when it comes to objectifying women, although some can argue he is a comedian and just trying to make jokes. However, with the recent essay allegations, it is a little alarming as this has been repeated behavior from Brand. And for number 7, we have grooming allegations. Just a warning, we are going to be discussing certain topics that some viewers may find sensitive. And of course, these are all allegations, which means nothing has been proven guilty by the court as of right now. Following the release of the investigative documentary, one of the 4 anonymous women who have claimed to once been involved in a 3-month relationship with Brand when she was only 16 and he was 30. They refer to her as Alice, and she says that Russell approached her after she went shopping, and Russell went through her purchases and pulled out a dress she bought. He then told her, "You're gonna wear this on our date this week." Alice took a taxi to Brand's house, and the taxi driver even warned her, as she recalls his words were, "Please, I'm asking you not to go in there. You could be my little girl, and I would want someone to do this for her." This heartbreaking encounter shows the reasons why power imbalances and age, especially to teens like Alice, can be manipulative. She told Brand how she was pure and inexperienced when it came to any physical activity, which seemed to make Brand's mind preoccupied by that thought. Alice stated, "He was like, 'Oh my god, my baby,' and picked me up and cradled me in his arms like a child and was stroking my hair. He's like, 'You're like my little dolly.'" This relationship ended after Brand was performing specific acts on Alice and refused to stop. This left Alice with no choice but to punch him before proceeding to cry. She stated, "I knew at this point that he didn't care about hurting me physically or emotionally. It shouldn't take you having to punch someone and to wind them to get off of you. It shouldn't be a physical fight." And if this encounter is all true, it is devastating to hear go through all of this, and it's definitely hard to recognize the red flags in the moment, especially because she was so young. For number 6, we have making uncomfortable comments. There is not only one encounter of this issue, but recently a resurfaced video of Russell making Good Morning Joe's Mika Brzezinski so uncomfortable that they had to cut to commercial break. During this, Brand was 38 and promoting his Messiah Complex stand-up tour that began in 2013. This clip shows Russell talking about how Mika is holding the bottle in an inappropriate way before calling her a grasper. Although Mika seemed to be smiling and laughing, her face quickly shifted to uncomfortableness as soon as Brand said that. In fact, the other hosts were rushing to commercial break because Brand kept continuing on making inappropriate comments. It's clear some people were okay with Russell's jokes, whereas other people felt uncomfortable, and this makes the whole situation even more difficult as there are so many mixed opinions. In our 5th spot, we have suggestive behavior on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Katharine McPhee, a well-known actress, was a guest star on The Tonight Show alongside Brand back in 2013. During the interview, Russell refused to get out of the guest chair, which left Catherine no choice but to step up while talking to Fallon. Russell then said to Fallon, "She's welcome to sit here," before grabbing her and suggestively bounced her on his lap before she quickly got up. In fact, Jimmy Fallon even tried to intervene, as you can see him attempting to stop what was going on. Once Fallon actually mentioned Catherine's husband, Brand said, "I didn't know you were married. I'm going to off now." Although Catherine actually responded on Monday to the situation by stating this specific incident was over 10 years ago and it was harmless. "I'm glad the situation didn't harm Catherine in any way, as it seems she poked fun alongside Brand during this interview, but it definitely shows a behavior Brand has a pattern of, which seems to make some uneasy." The onlookers in this situation also did seem to be shocked and uncomfortable. In our fourth spot, we have explicit jokes. Obviously, he is a comedian, so it is his job to make others laugh. However, a few jokes that he's made in the past have now been resurfacing because of the allegations against him. Brand appeared on Richard Herring's 2013 podcast and described himself as a narcissist. He told the audience he had forced himself on someone before and then proceeded to say he ended her life. In this same interview, he joked about the ancient Greeks performing inappropriate acts on while developing math. It's clear Russell said all of this because he was trying to get a laugh out of the audience. However, it is drawing more attention to the recent allegations, especially with Alice coming forward with her story. It seemed the joke was a little too close to home. There has been mixed reactions to this, as many believed it was inappropriate to joke about, but others think the world has become too sensitive. What do you think? In our third spot, we have his perseverance. Many girls have now come out to say Brand has a very controlling behavior, with many finding it difficult for him to listen to their boundaries. According to the Sunday Times, a woman who has gone by Nadia told the outlet that Brand SA'd her in her Los Angeles home back in 2012 and actually went to a crisis center the same day. According to their text messages that were cited by the report, Nadia wrote to Brand, quote, "When a woman says no, it means no," which Brand reportedly responded with, "Very sorry." This is not the only time it has been reported that Brand wouldn't take no as an answer when it came to advances towards women. In fact, the Metropolitan Police Service released a statement that discussed how they are making further approaches with BBC and Channel 4 after all these allegations. For number 2, we have Danny Minogue's interview about Brand. This interview has been spread all over the internet since the allegations, because this took place nearly 17 years ago, before any of the recent news on the situation was brought up. Danny, who is an Australian singer and TV personality, was booked to appear on Brand's show in order to promote the release of her album at the time. She stated, "He is completely crazy and a bit of a vile. I certainly don't think he has cured his sex addiction, that's for sure. He wouldn't take no for an answer." She even further added, "Throughout the whole interview, he kept making shocking remarks that I can't even repeat. Just uttering the words would make me blush." Danny also discussed how Brand kept commenting on her, quote, "fabulous breasts," which made her very uncomfortable. This interview took place in 2006, and some believe this further adds on to Brand's behavior, especially when it comes to women. It seems like he has a pattern with how he proceeds to view women, but this whole essay situation is still alleged. And for number 1, we have his history of misleading. Russell Brand was recently dropped by his agency following the essay allegations. However, the agency is now speaking up about this whole situation and believes they were misled by Brand. Apparently, they were aware of allegations that were brought up back in 2020. Travis Stockwood Management, previously working with Brand, released a statement that read, "Russell Brand categorically and vehemently denied the allegations made in 2020, but we now believe we were horribly misled by him." TW has terminated all professional ties to Brand, and over the weekend, the company actually removed Brand's profile off their website. In fact, they weren't the only ones who claimed to be misled, as Trevi, a UK-based women's charity that aims to help those dealing with addiction, has also posted on Instagram to discuss their termination with Brand and his organization, the Stay Free Foundation. One part of their statement read, "Today's media revelations have been difficult to process, but our priority remains and continues to be safety and well-being of all women and girls now and in the future. We have ended our association with Russell Brand and the Stay Free Foundation." It's clear companies are now taking action to no longer associate themselves with Brand following the release of the documentary.
Now, did you know that Russell Brand has actually been banned from YouTube? That's right, YouTube has decided that he will no longer be able to make money whatsoever on the platform. This news comes after several women made allegations of SA against him, and more stories about him just keep coming out. His YouTube account, which has around 6.6 million subscribers, has now been suspended following serious allegations against him. The company released a statement saying this decision applies to all channels that may be owned or operated by Russell Brand. Other channels associated with his YouTube include Awakening with Russell, Football is Nice, and Stay Free with Russell Brand. The actor and comedian still has a presence on Rumble, which is a video site popular with some conservatives, where his channel has about 1.4 million followers. These allegations were made by 4 women in a Channel 4 television documentary, The Times and Sunday Times newspapers. The accusers, who have not been named, include one person who said she was SA'd by him during a relationship that she had with him when they were very young. Another woman said that he took advantage of her back in 2012. The 4 allegations date from between 2006 and 2013. London's Metropolitan Police said that since those claims were made public, it has received a report of separate claims dating back from 2003. For his part, Russell has denied everything, and he issued a video message on social media to call out what he calls very serious criminal allegations. He did this just hours before they were published on Saturday. Quote, "These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous." He went on to say that during that time of promiscuity, the relationships he had were always consensual. But despite his proclamation of innocence, he's already starting to see some very serious consequences for his alleged actions. His management agency, Tavistock Wood, terminated all professional ties to him. They released a statement saying Russell Brand categorically and vehemently denied the allegation made in 2020, but we now believe we were horribly misled by him. Paramount Plus has removed one of his stand-up comedy specials, and the BBC said it removed some content featuring him from its streaming platform iPlayer and BBC Sounds. This was after they assessed that it now falls below public expectations. Russell was also set to do a string of live gigs, but promoters have now postponed the remaining dates because of all the controversy. Now that all of this is happening, people are looking at old clips and interviews about him that look like warning signs of his problematic behavior. Shortly after the release of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Kristen Bell told interviewers that she had to intimidate her co-star Russell Brand to make sure he understood that she was not interested in having a sexual relationship with him. During an interview with the Scottish Daily Record, she said that she was aware of his womanizing and made it clear to him that she was not going to tolerate his advances. She said she initially found him attractive, but lost attraction when she read up on how he treated women. Quote, "I had no idea who he was until I googled him and saw what a little stinker he is with the ladies. He kept reminding us every 10 minutes of how famous he is in Britain by going, 'It's so weird not to be recognized here.'" She went on to say, "He didn't fancy me at all, and in fact, he went out of his way to tell me how grotesque I was, and I certainly didn't fancy him because he's so high maintenance. He took longer in makeup than I did." While Kristen also praised him as an actor and said that she loved working with him, you can see why some of her comments are now being looked at as early red flags that we should have noticed. Known for his unbridled and risky stand-up routines, Russell Brand was a major UK star in the early 2000s. He hosted shows on radio and television, wrote memoirs charting his battles with substances and alcohol, appeared in several Hollywood movies, and of course, he was married to Katy Perry from 2010 to 2012. There were also a few other signs over the years that he might have been aggressive, like when he first crossed paths with Katy Perry. So back in 2009, he took to the stage at the MTV Video Music Awards, and Katy flung a bottle at him that he caught. After the show, he was furious, but when she approached him, he claimed that she was fiery and caught his attention. Katy went on to describe the interaction and what Russell attempted to do to her that very same night. She admitted that he attempted to force himself on her, but she was successfully able to steer clear. Russell was apparently furious, but he listened to what she said and then walked away. 4 months later, and they were engaged. Now, Katy might not have understood what was happening at the time, but considering the horror stories now coming out about Russell, she might have just saved herself from becoming another one of his alleged victims.